Welcome to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. As you know, my name's Chad. I'm taking a dive into old sports. This is my NFL Week 10 recap video. And this was not a week for me with these picks. It was, these past 3 weeks have been really bad. A lot of games kind of going ways I didn't think they would go. And this week was no exception. And I'm going 6, 7, and 1. That's right, we had a tie this week in NFL. Had that one a little bit in the most unlikely spot. So let's just kick it off with Thursday night football. And Baltimore went out to Miami and laid an egg. That's just pretty much what it was. That the Baltimore could not do anything. They were out of sync. Credit to the Miami defense. They came in with a game plan. And they shut down the Ravens. But the Ravens defense tried to keep them in there for most of the game, but they got tired. Ended up coughing 16 points in the fourth quarter, and Miami stunned Baltimore 22-10 to really start off my night or my weekend with the NFL action. Let's go down to Big D, where last week D was the D standing for disappointment, and this time the D stands for demolition. They defeathered the Falcons in Big D. Prescott was just phenomenal, almost 300 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. Zeke was doing what he had to do to protect his quarterback, as well as doing some key runs. CD Lamb had 2 TDs. It was just a dominant performance, and it was done at halftime, because it was already 36-3 at half. This was, I was going to think, Mike Quinn, who's the down defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, used to coach the Falcons, so he had a little something extra in this as well. And that defense was flying. They could not do anything, and it was a one-sided affair. Cowboys win 43-3. Now we head up to Music City, where he had the Titans playing host to the Saints, and Saints is one of these teams that just keep coming back and doing very well. Simeon is doing a very good job as the starting quarterback. And, the Titans are just finding ways to perform without King Henry in the rushing attack. And then they have Adrian Peterson as part of the running back core. Their defense has stepped up the games, and this was very good. The Saints was without their star running back, Alvin Kamara. And this one was very close, but a failed 2-point conversion towards the end of the game sealed the fate, and the Titans were able to escape with a 23-21 victory. Then we head into Indianapolis, where the Colts were playing host to the Jaguars, and I thought it was going to be pretty much a one-sided affair, all Colts. The Jags had other ideas. The second half, they were clawing back, and they're trying to get in there, and it was the Jags defense stepped up, but the Colts defense right at the end sat there and sealed the victory with a late game fumble recovery, and that just nixed Jacksonville's comeback try. But Jacksonville is starting to trend in the right direction, so maybe Urban Meyer is doing what it needs to do, get these guys in the right position. I think just maybe 1 or 2 more pieces. I think the Jaguars are going to be legit with probably next year. But right now, they got beat by the Colts. Trying to keep pace with the Titans, who seems to be running away with the South right now. So Colts win 23-17. And then up into New England, where Cleveland Browns were visiting. And Cleveland was without Chubb, which at the time of my pick, I didn't realize they were out of him. But, the third stringer was actually did pretty good in replacement last time, so I wasn't too worried. However, this Patriots team is legit. They decimated Cleveland. I mean, they could not do anything. They even knocked Baker out in the third quarter. Took him out of the game. The Browns went away from their game set, what they're built to do. Now, there's always in question, is Baker Mayfield the quarterback for Cleveland? As Cleveland is set up, Baker is their quarterback. But the problem is they like to go away from their game plan, which is to just run down your throat. When they're two-star running backs, but when their running backs are out, then Baker does things and puts the defense in bad position, but then the defense can't step up with those names on that line. They can't get to the quarterback. And the game just got ugly quick. And it was Mac Jones was almost 200 yards passing, but he had 3 touchdowns. And it was just, Stevenson was doing what he had to do on the ground as well for the Pats. He had 100 yards even with 2 scores. And it was just a runaway game for New England, and they destroyed Cleveland 45-7. Then the Bills visit MetLife to take on the lonely Jets. White was making his, start, and he got lit up. This wasn't no, comeback victory. He got decimated by the Bills defense. Bills decided to get back on form. Josh Allen had over 360 yards with 2 TDs. Singletary had a touchdown on the ground. Diggs had over 160 yards receiving with a touchdown. This was a one-sided affair by Buffalo to get themselves back on track, get their mindsets clear, because they got to watch out for New England, because New England is right on their heels. Bills win 45-17. In the game that no one saw coming. After I made my picks, that's when it was revealed that Big Ben was not going to be able to start because he'd been put on the protocols. Claypool's been ruled out. So now the Steelers are missing 2 of their pieces of the offense. So now Mason Rudolph, yes, you haven't heard that name in a while, was making his first start of the season. And it was a sloppy game. It was. There's no way to really say this. I mean, Goff is a very good quarterback. In Detroit is one of these teams that just continues to fight, and then just after a while they kind of give up. It's just what it seems like. And they were fighting. It was a bad, game. The first half. Otherwise, it was not very ideal to do a lot of things, and you can tell. And it was just, maybe just lack of Rudolph having time to prepare for this game probably led to, a little bit of a decrease of the Steelers' offensive output. Najee Harris couldn't really do much on the ground. Swift was phenomenal for Detroit. He had 130 yards on the ground, but no scores. I mean, it was 10 and a half, and then they ended up going to overtime where no one wanted to win. Detroit missed a field goal in overtime to win it. There were fumbles everywhere, and it was a fumble late in OT that led to, they were driving. They were setting it up. But they fumbled. Detroit recovered, and that was it. That was the ball game. It tied 16-16. And that lets you know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in Pittsburgh to see who's going to be the heir apparent to Big Ben, because it's definitely not Rudolph. Now we head to the nation's capital, where Tampa Bay was coming to town. And I thought this was going to be Tampa Bay. I thought they were going to get get their ship sailing in the right direction. They'll go pillaging the rest of the NFL. Apparently, DC had other plan for him. They stifled Brady. Brady had 2 picks in the first quarter, which is really unheard of. And it was just, a lot of these were just, one of them was the hit the receiver went up. So it was kind of deflection, but still goes against Brady. And it's just, Washington's defense was just stifling Tampa Bay. And Washington's offense was methodical and just ran the ball. And that's all they did. They manhandled that front line with all those names on the Tampa Bay's defensive line. Could not do anything. They were getting pushed out of the way. They were running slow, methodical drives, taking the time to leaving less and less time for Tom Brady to do what he needs to do. because that's all they're doing. They're eating the clock, and scoring. And that's all it was. Washington came to play. They knocked off Tampa Bay 29-19. Carolina visiting Arizona. And this was like after, I made this pick, I think afterwards, Cam Newton was signed and returned to Carolina. The team that would not re-sign him, so he goes up to New England, where he gets ousted by a rookie quarterback. So now Cam Newton goes there, was replaced by Bridgewater. Here's a little funny aspect. Carolina didn't sign him. They signed Bridgewater as a replacement. They go, meh. Bridgewater's gone. So they drafted Sam Darnold. Not drafted, but got Sam Darnold from the Jets. He was doing fire to begin with, but then he got injured. Then came P.J. Walker. So now that's their replacement. So Bridgewater was the replacement. Darnold was a replacement to the replacement. P.J. Walker was a replacement to the replacement. So now Cam Newton's the replacement to the replacement to the replacement to a replacement. It's weird. But this seemed to be a spark. And also McCaffrey was back. I mean, that right there should let you know that things going to be different in Carolina. Once Christian McCaffrey came back, he was just all over the place. He was a dual threat individual. He had 95 yards on the ground, 66 yards in the air. Didn't score. You know who did score? His first play with Carolina, Cam Newton runs in. Of course, he gets called with a penalty because he took out his helmet and started screaming, "I'm back." That's right, Superman returns. He had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown as Carolina stepped up and knocked the piss out of Arizona 34-10. Then we had the LA where the Chargers were playing host to Minnesota. And this is one of these games I kind of went back and forth on because I know how LA's been doing. I know how Minnesota's been doing. It's just one of these two. I think these two teams are very identical. And they have very good quarterbacks, Cousins and Herbert. Very similar style. Offenses, defenses are very similar. It's just one's been getting the wins and the other one has been getting the losses. So I thought the Chargers got their spark back because they went to Philadelphia in the last second, won the game. But once again, they forgot to plug in before the game because it wasn't enough for them. Minnesota came out to play. And it was a very, very tight contest throughout this game, and Minnesota was able to edge out LA 27-20. Then Philly heads out to Mile High to take on Bridgewater and the Broncos. And, like I said, last week I thought Philly was going to knock off the Chargers. They go out to Denver, and I thought their game against Dallas was a fluke. I think Philly's one of these dangerous teams that can probably sneak their way in if things kind of fall right for them. And they went up to Denver and just took it to them. I mean, there's no other way, and it was one of these things where Philadelphia was able to score on offense, on defense. I mean, Darius Slay had a scoop and score touchdown, and the Eagles beat the Broncos 30-13. And it's football when the snow starts to fall in Lambeau. That's right. The Packers playing host to Seattle. The return of their two franchise quarterbacks. Thanks. Russell Wilson might have come back a little too early, maybe a week early. He looked a little off. He definitely looked rusty because he was throwing off target through a lot of the interceptions he shouldn't be throwing. Aaron Rodgers looked a little off too from his time away. I didn't think he should have started either. But, he looked a little off. Yeah, he was throwing picks, which is, not really him. But it was a defensive showdown. Both defenses showed up. They were trying to take advantage of these miscues by the quarterbacks. But in the end, the fourth quarter was all they really needed for Green Bay to win. I mean, they lost a Aaron Jones, who's out for the year now with injury, and A.J. Dillon replaced him and had 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter as Green Bay shut out Seattle 17-0. Sunday night, Patrick Mahomes visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a divisional game. The Raiders always seem to play well against Kansas City in Mahomes' time frame. But somehow, whatever's been ailing Kansas City through most of the year disappeared. Kansas City was just on fire. They were doing the necessary things. I mean, the Raiders defense was not playing what everyone else has been doing to kind of mitigate the effectiveness of the offense. But, one of the big things you got to look at, the receivers were making catches. They were doing the right decisions. They're being slow, methodical, not going for big plays, even though they probably could have done that. They were just building up the confidence in the entire team. Kelsey was actually, making some receptions. Because unfortunately, he's been one of the bad seeds as it is offense. Besides Mahomes, I think Kelsey hasn't been doing much. Kelsey showed up this game. He almost had 120 yards receiving. Mahomes had over 400 yards passing. Williams from the backfield. He didn't really do much for the running attack. He only had 43 yards. But Mahomes had 5 total touchdowns. 5 passing touchdowns, so I say. Not really total, but 5 touchdowns. As Kansas City came back in form as the Chiefs offense we all know and love. And they routed the Raiders 41-14. And then last night, the battle on the West Coast for NFC West. Rams visiting the 49ers in Santa Clara. And something's not right in L.A. They got all this star power. I mean, you got Matthew Stafford leading it. You got Sam Darnold on the front line. Then you got Von Miller as your linebacker. You got Jalen Ramsey as your secondary. And they just get picked up OBJ for the receiving core, who only had 2 catches the entire game. So I'm just waiting for the video clip from Beckham Sr. about how he was getting thrown the ball again. If you haven't seen that meme, that's funny. But it was what the 49ers offensive line did to the LA defensive line was the key factor. They just smacked them around. Kittle was getting some key blocks. I mean, he took out Von Miller. I mean, the play was, had negative yards. But he had Von Miller's legs in the air. I mean, that's something you don't expect, a tight end to do, but that's basically what it is. The front line of the 49ers was doing what they had to do to get themselves back into this playoff picture, back into the NFC West divisional race, because now they're only 2 games behind LA, 3 games behind, I think, Arizona. So they got a lot of work to do. This was the team I had picking winning this division. But no one saw Arizona coming out the way they did. But they did enough to do what they had to do. And the 49ers decimated the Rams 31-10. And really just sealed me losing this week. Have my second worst week since doing these picks. And it's like I don't know what's in the air when it comes to these guys playing right now. It's just it's fun, phenomenal, really. I mean, teams show up when they're not supposed to show up. Teams that are supposed to win don't win. But this is NFL. Any given Sunday, anyone can knock off anyone. Just basically football in general. You can come in and you just have the game of your life. You could be losing every single game beforehand, but you show up this one day, and then you just go out there and play. And you knock off, the team you're not supposed to win. Washington. New England was all over Cleveland, so I'll let you know. So we got some interesting games coming up next week. You got to see how things kind of go from there. So I'll make sure to get those picks out to you on Thursday before the kickoff of New England and Atlanta. Give a rematch of a Super Bowl matchup. It's going to be the same thing. I already foresee this one. I think New England's going to go down there, Atlanta, beat them again. But we'll save the rest of the predictions for next week. Maybe listen to my son. He actually picked different teams than me and actually was right almost every single time. So I think he did a lot better than I did. So I might do next week as here's my son's picks, here's my picks, and we'll see kind of things how they go from there. And like I said, I'll get that video out to you on Thursday before Thursday night football kickoff. And well, like I said, that's basically it. Let me know what you thought about last week's game. Which one really surprised you the most? Which team do you think now, as in the season are, who are your best teams out of each conference? So I think right now you kind of look at it's going to probably be Tennessee and Green Bay. Right now, the top two sitting up there. But hey, who knows? Just leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And while you're there, go ahead, give me a thumbs up, give me a like. You can also subscribe. Once you subscribe, hit that bell notification. Until next time I post a video. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.